some of the ways in which you yourself have helped others or even yourself through grief?
I guess I'll speak on this first. Space. Allowing yourself the space to grieve, allowing others the space to grieve. I mean, it's not a comfortable place to be for yourself or anyone else. And a lot of times this world wants to push you past it. See the positive, think on the bright side, see the silver lining, all of that. And while those are good things, sometimes you just need to exist and allow yourself or allow others to exist in that place of grief for a little while. Don't wallow in it forever. You do have to come out of it sometimes, but allow yourself the time and the space to grieve and allow that for others as well.
Yeah. I think what Carolyn said, you definitely have to move through grief or it will continue to find you. For me, it was, I have to talk about what is going on. Other people, there may be other outlets. You find your outlet, but you get through it. To ignore it will not go away. It will come out in different ways in your life. You can even have repressed grief and pain from childhood that rears its ugly head as an adult. And you're like, oh, well, this is 30 years old. Thanks for showing up today. Or you deal with it. And I think that's how I've helped others and try to tell myself, if you're depressed today, you acknowledge you are depressed. You do not hide that you are depressed and you move through depression. Grief the same way, you keep going.
Yeah. And I think that kind of a quote that comes to mind for me is something that helps me is, it's okay to not be okay. Yeah. So we live in this world where everybody wants to be happy-go-lucky all the time, and we're looking for, the bright light, but sometimes it's okay to not be okay. And you need to know what you're going to do for yourself, or if you see somebody that's not okay, how you can support them. And we get through it. It's a temporary being, but it's okay to not be okay.
Especially right now with coronavirus going on, everybody's kind of existing in a place of, am I okay? Am I not okay? How do I feel today? How do I feel this hour? So definitely okay not to be okay right now.
You know what quote comes up for me, Callista? If you're going through hell, keep on going. And there's that country song, and I'm like, yes, it is right. Do not stay here. Keep moving.
Now I have the song stuck in my head, but thank you.
Yes, welcome. Mine too.
Planted that seed for the rest of the day.
Yes, thank you. We'll just keep on moving.
For me, I was able to, when I did counseling in college, I learned a lot of really helpful tools through journaling and different exercises and things like that really helped me process where I was feeling and where those feelings were coming from. A lot of, I think, handling grief is being aware of what you're actually feeling, because so many times you're feeling so many different things all at once. And so just actually naming what you are feeling and naming the things that could potentially be causing you to feel that and saying, this is everything, and laying it out for me is so helpful. And I usually do that through writing. And that has been a really helpful tool that I have learned to use when I am processing grief and hard things, is just physically getting it all out through writing. And then the other thing that has significantly helped me would be my faith and prayer. Definitely helped me process all of my grief and such.
So Ashley, I have a question for you.
Sure.
This is not on the list.
That's all right.
You seem really smart, so I'm going to ask you. When you're journaling and these emotions are coming out, are you ever surprised that what you thought was the problem was not what came out?
Oh, all the time. It's crazy. I don't know that I have a blank piece of paper around here, but I learned a thing where you fold a paper and on the skinny part, you literally list all of your emotions, and then you fold those emotions over, and then you list everything that's going on that could possibly be causing whatever is happening, whether it's grief from your childhood or sudden changes, or right now COVID, or all of those things that are happening. And then you have to match which emotions are coming from which situations. And then you also have to say which situations you have control over and which ones you don't. Because a lot of times there are situations that you are handling that you have no control over. And so, but there is almost always one thing that you can choose, and you pick that thing and you fix it. or you work on it, or you step forward in it. Or if it's okay, I'm feeling really overwhelmed about this specific grief right now, I'm going to do something that is going to help me move forward in that. I think that's a really important thing to be able to do. And that's something that you can do with somebody else verbally. If you're in a support team, that's kind of what you do when you're sitting in group. You're really talking through the situations and talking through your feelings. When you no longer have a great grief group, you have to figure out how to do it yourself. So that's just a tool that I've done, and it's been really helpful.
I think journaling is so important, Ashley. I just want to stick on it for one more second.
Oh, yeah.
Do you ever go back and reflect or see your growth in things you've written in the past?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, I have journals from middle school and high school, aside from silly notes and fun things with friends and stuff. There really is a really good, oh, I remember how I was feeling so overwhelmed by this situation, or so overwhelmed, or I thought that this feeling was never going to end. And wow, look at all the good that's come from it, or look at all of the change and the growth that has happened through these situations.
So Ashley, if someone has not journaled in the past, what are a few recommendations you would give them to get them started on that process? If they're like, this sounds like something I want to do, I'm just not quite sure how to start.
I mean, I started with writing a sentence a day, like literally just write a sentence. It could be something you're thankful for. It could be something that you're feeling, or it could be something you're frustrated with. It could be, hey, today I did this, and list your biggest accomplishment of the day. And then sometimes you can grow, say, okay, I'm going to write a page a day, or things like that. I mean, it doesn't have to be this intimidating thing, because really no one else is going to see it except you. You can burn them if you want. They're really just
might help sometimes. Some of those emotions go.
But they really are just for you. And so no one else is going to see it. You don't have to feel judgment if your handwriting is really bad or your spelling is awful. Half of y'all probably wouldn't be able to read mine even if you found them. But like, it's amazing to go back. I went back to one a couple of years ago when we were going through a crazy life transition, and just to see what has come out of that situation that we thought was horrendous and awful, and all of the amazing good that has come through that path, and walking that path and coming out of it.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I think journaling is a big self-help that we can give to kids, to ourselves, just to make them aware this is something you can do. If a group is not around, if a friend is not around, you can be self-sufficient to heal. And that is a great place to start.
One thing
one thing
I want to add to that. The one thing especially could be helpful for kids, teenagers, but also adults. There's so many like bullet journals, workbooks, those kinds of things that can kind of help you. If you don't, if looking at a blank page in a blank journal just overwhelms and intimidates you, and you don't quite know how to address that, some of these other tools exist, and they're so readily available now that you have so many options out there for, particular topics, or, whatever it is.
So Calista, I'm going to ask you this one, because I think you have some experience from your past job with it. Since we're talking about journaling, I know that there's a lot to be said with art therapy and how that can help all of us process emotions. Do you have anything you'd like to say if maybe someone's like, I'm more artistic than wordsy?
Yeah, actually, well, and just so everybody knows who's watching and might not be aware, I was at Safe House of the Desert, which is an emergency shelter for teens, for youth, 11 to 17-year-olds. And we had an amazing art therapy program there. They still have an amazing art therapy program there. I'm just not there. But it was the highlight of the week. They'd go 2 to 3 times a week into a classroom to be able to do art. And it was a great opportunity, especially kids when they'd first get there, they weren't sure, and maybe they'd never done art before, or maybe they'd done art before and they didn't think they were any good at it. And they're like, well, I don't want to do art. And it was never forced, it was never pushed, but they were exposed to it, and they were welcomed by the art director, who just was really amazing and would give them the tools that they needed to express themselves. And kids who would start the first week and not want to do any art, they would end up leaving the program going, can I take the art supplies home with me? Because I don't want to stop. and finding something that they had really enjoyed. And it was not about, you know, drawing a perfect picture. It was about expressing yourself and using whatever tools were available to express yourself. And really asking difficult questions, or asking questions that maybe you just hadn't even thought of before, and then seeing where your expression took you. And that was really powerful.
Now, Callista, with Safe House in mind, things like Grief Group are wonderful when they are scheduled at school. I know Safe House has a program that they offer that has a texting component. Would you like to speak on that to let these kids know about that?
Yeah. So the What's Up Safe House app is actually really awesome. You can either download the app or just text the phone number, and you can go to safehouseofthedesert.com to get the information on the What's Up Safe House app. But what you're doing is you're texting with a trained counselor who's trained working with teens, and working with teens with issues of all different sizes. You know, and they've heard pretty much everything before, I want to say, and even if they haven't, they've got some great advice on how to move forward, and they're great listeners. So the What's Up Safe House app is something that if you are sitting at home in the middle of the night, it's 24/7, and you can't sleep because there's something on your mind, you could just text them and they would text back, and it's totally anonymous and free.
And that can be the smallest thing to the biggest problem that they're going to listen to. They really take,
you know, I would even say, like, if you were up because you have a test the next day and you can't sleep because of it, you could text and there was somebody to talk to. You didn't have to wake up your parents or, you know, try to find a friend, but there was always somebody to talk to.